Welcome to I Wrote That, a podcast where we bring authors and industry experts together to talk about all things books and make the journey to authorship just a little bit easier. My name is Larissa Sohan, and I am the CEO of Next Page Publishing, a hybrid publishing house where we help entrepreneurs write books to grow their businesses. In 2021, I published my first sci-fi novel, The Defender, through a hybrid publishing company, and from that experience, I learned exactly what not to do. When I joined with this very big publishing company, I was put in a system that was designed to push out thousands of books a year, and I was just a cog in the wheel. And it was heartbreaking when my first book was published and it was a flop. In that moment, I made it my mission to found a hybrid publishing company that was going to give aspiring authors the experience that they deserve. Now I'm on a mission to help aspiring authors feel like they are in control of the publishing journey and that they are supported by a team of experts who genuinely want the best for them and their books. If you are in the very beginning of your journey, or maybe you have a manuscript that you're finished and you're not sure how to get it out into the world, I encourage you to reach out to us at nextpagepublishing.net. You can schedule your free discovery call and find out how our team of experts can make your journey to being a published author easy, smooth, and successful. Now, without further ado, let's get on to our next amazing guest and make your journey to authorship a little less complicated. I want to welcome a very special guest and friend and co-author today to the show, Terri Tonkin. She is a multiple international bestselling author and ghostwriter, which I could talk for years on. She's been featured in The Corporate Escapist and the Disruptive Publishing magazine and has been on several podcasts as guests. Now, Terri is a lifelong learner, which preach, me too, speaking of someone who's going to school and running a business and having a family and all that good stuff. She's also an avid reader, which I feel like you have to be in this industry. If you're going to write, you better read. And she loves to travel, which again, I can relate to so much, as we just got back from a week-long trip to the Canadian Badlands, which someone has informed me is not a thing. And I was like, oh, yes, it is. So welcome, Terri, to the show.
Hi, Marissa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
I have to ask, have you ever heard of the Canadian Badlands?
No, I haven't. Unfortunately, I've not traveled to Canada. It is on my bucket list.
Oh, well, you don't have to go to the Canadian Badlands. The Canadian Badlands, for all of my listeners super curious, is basically the dinosaur hub of Canada. It's where we found the most fossils. It's it used to be the biggest ocean in Canada before, the Ice Age and everything dried up. And it dates back like 160 million years or something like that to the fossils found. So you go to this little sleepy town of Drumheller. It's like 8,000 people, and it brings in 500,000 people in tourism every summer because people just love that the town is fully invested in the dinosaur theme. You go downtown, there's dinosaurs everywhere. There's footprints all over the ground. Like, it's really, really special. And we've been going there every summer to just immerse myself in that kind of culture. And my daughter has grown up around dinosaurs, and she has a dinosaur costume, for goodness sakes, that she wears. So, just the imagination that you are allowed to have in this space for someone like me who is creative and thrives on imagination, it's a very cool place to be. So thank you for giving me that moment. Yeah, it is interesting. So you're also a very creative person. You have to be as a ghostwriter, but you're towing that line between your own creativity and someone else's. So tell me a little bit about what it's like being a ghostwriter.
For me, it's my happy place where I'm writing. My process is that I interview my clients, just like we're doing now. I'll do a Zoom and I'll record it so that I can capture their voice, I can capture their language, and I can capture their emotion. So yes, I'm telling their story, but I'm writing it in their voice because it's their story. So I may embellish what they say a little bit, but it's only to bring out their creativity as well. So you don't want anybody to just write blah, blah, blah. You want it to be written so that people are engaged. So for me, it is, like I said, it's towing the line of my creativity, but it's also bringing somebody else's creativity through.
Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of authors, have always wondered if they could do what you do for other people, if they could tell someone else's story. And I was a ghostwriter for a little while before my business got too busy, and I couldn't do that anymore between my own projects and my clients' projects.
Mhm.
There wasn't time. But the title of this episode is Writing is Your Dream, and now you get to live it. So how are you balancing your own creativity with the voice of others?
When I get the urge, I've got another book in the planning stages, I guess. It's in its infancy. So when I get inspired to write something in that, I just write in that. If I'm working with a client, their work actually becomes the priority because they're a paying client. That's my business. So I've been very fortunate this year in that I've been able to travel as well, which also inspires me with my writing. So it's also making sure doing things that bring joy to my life, as well as helping my clients through their project. So it can be a bit of a balancing act, but as long as I am meeting my needs, I'm good.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense with trying to balance your own creativity with the needs of your clients. Do you ever find your voice mingling with someone else's? If you're actively working on your own projects and someone else's, do you have to put your project away because you find you take on too much voice of the other author?
I haven't found myself in that position as yet, but I could imagine that it could happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
I think I know, like when I was doing it, I was working on my memoir at the same time, and was working with this woman, beautiful, beautiful soul, and her story was very similar to mine. And so I did have to separate. I did have to put my book down and start
Mm.
working on hers because it was they were mingling. My emotions were mixing with hers and it wasn't working. So I had to pull out of my project for the 6 months that it takes and work on hers. And it was very eye-opening. That was one of the reasons I stopped doing the ghostwriting, is because I didn't want to put my projects down. I wanted to keep going, and I wanted to make sure it was authentically my voice in
Yeah.
my work. So that's very interesting that you're able to keep them separate. My hat goes off to you.
I think if they were, like you said, if you were doing your memoir and you're writing somebody else's memoir, that would be very difficult to separate. The projects that I have done are not in the same sort of realm as my work. So I think that would make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So when did you decide you wanted to actually write your first book? Like, how did you get into this? Because you've written how many? How many have you been a part of now?
15 or 16.
Wow. See, it's like at this point you're losing count. It's like birthdays. Like, I don't know, something.
It's around that number. It's around that number. I've always wanted to write my own book since I was a little girl. I lived in regional Queensland in Australia. We didn't have TV until I was almost 7. So reading was my outlet. I have 2 older brothers and I was the baby girl. So you were either rough and tumbling it with the boys or you were reading, and that was my outlet. So I always wanted to write a book. It took me till I was 60 to write it. And I rang my mentor one day and I said, it's time to write the book. And she said, why now? And I said, I've run out of excuses.
Oh my gosh, Terri. Yes. Thank you for saying that. So how did that feel when you said that? Like, I'm done with the excuses.
Yeah, it was freeing. And she just laughed at me. We were friends, but yeah, she laughed at me. And I said, I was no longer working full time. I just completed my coaching studies. I had free time on my hands. And the biggest driver was my mum had been placed in care. She was struggling with dementia. And I wanted her to read my book before it got to the stage where she could no longer comprehend. So I started on the 1st of July, 2018, and I hit publish on the 30th of September, 2018. So
sorry, say those dates again. What? That's like 3 months?
3 months. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Terri. Wow. It flowed. It flowed.
Absolutely. It was time.
Yeah.
It was time.
Yeah.
And I had got rid of the excuses and I just concentrated on that. So that was called My Time to Shine.
Is that what the book's called?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, talk about it. It's I love that so much because my first nonfiction book, How to Write a Book, Memoirs and Autobiographies, is actually pseudo dedicated to a woman that I was interviewing about something different. I wasn't even in the podcast space or anything yet. Her and I just got chatting over the internet, as you do with strangers on the internet. And
of course,
right?
Across the other side of the world.
How do you make friends if it's not with strangers on the internet? Kids, don't take that advice. That's not good advice. But I was chatting with her and we were talking about, I was in the middle of writing my first book and I was telling her about it. And she was like, oh, I really want to write a book. And I was like, natural question. Well, what would your book be about? Right. And she's like, I want it to be a memoir. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then I could feel the demeanor in her change. And she said, but I don't think I'll ever get to. And I was like, why? Like, what's going on here? And she's like, well, I have early onset dementia. And so every day my memories are getting further and further away and I'm just not remembering it. And she was like 45. She was young. And I remember asking her, I was like, well, I mean, if every day it's slipping away, why aren't you starting today? Like, you can't do anything about the past. You can only start now. And she's like, I don't know how to. And so that was the moment for me when I knew I knew how to write a book. I knew how to tell a good story, how to plan it, how to edit it, market it, all that stuff. And I said, it's my job to share this with the world. So I wrote How to Write a Book, Memoirs and Autobiographies for her. It's not dedicated to her because we weren't like that close or anything, but she was the one I wrote it for. She was the one I was thinking of while I was writing this book of like, what does she need to hear to be able to write this? And it was to leave her own legacy, right? To have something
absolutely
for your mom to read as her memories start to fade. And even if she doesn't remember it, it's a hell of a good story she's engrossed in. And for some reason it's clicking with her. Like it is feeling good to her.
Yeah, well, she got it when I'd published and it was printed, and I walked in and I said, Mum, I've written my book. Here's your copy. And she read it and she said, it was obviously she was pretty involved in my story, and she would even say, I don't remember that. So I'm so glad that I got it done. But it's also a legacy for my grandchildren. So I'm called Nani. So they know what Nani's childhood was like, what Nani did throughout her life. And particularly for my granddaughter, the older granddaughter, for her to realise you can have dreams all the way through your life. And because you're a girl, doesn't limit you. And even though it's my memoir, there's a theme in my book that we all play roles in our lives. We all have responsibilities in our lives. Those roles don't define who we are, but they make us who we are. And they make us better. For all the ups and downs, they make us who we are. So there's that legacy there.
Absolutely. I mean, every book I've ever written has been for my daughter. Right. And even if it's not directly for her, it's like you said, it's to give her permission to show up and do whatever the hell she wants in her life. I mean, she's 5 and she's already published 3 books. I mean,
awesome.
they're paper, like they're, construction paper books, but they are her lifeblood. She carries them everywhere. She takes her notes in them. She shows them to her friends. And she does that because I gave her permission to do that.
Absolutely.
Right. That's so beautiful. So you wrote your first book sort of for your mom to give her that piece. Why? What was in it for you? I want to ask.
It was very therapeutic for me. It was cathartic. There were some days, when I say it took me 3 months, it didn't take me 3 months to write it. It took me 3 months from start to publish. And I actually worked out, my mentor had given me a spreadsheet and to record when I wrote. And when I actually looked back on it, I wrote it in like 25 days.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was all the work that you do beforehand, and then you've got to wait after it's published. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so I actually wrote for 25 days because there were some days I would come in and I would sit down and I'd go, it's not happening today. And I'd come in other days and it would be 3 hours and I'd go, oh, better get up and go for a walk. So it wasn't even, my plan was to write for 15 to 30 minutes a day. It didn't always happen. But when I wrote, it was just in flow and it was just freeing to actually tell my story.
There's something really powerful in what you just said about having a plan and then being okay with that plan not working out. And as authors, as a ghostwriter, ghostwriting is slightly different because, like you said, you're being paid to do that work. So put your butt in the chair and get the work done. But as authors writing for ourselves, the motivation is different. There's no dollar figure assigned to it. There's a different why behind why our butt is in that chair today. And that's the biggest advice. Like, it makes me cringe in a lot of writing coaching that I see, a lot of publishing support that I see is like, okay, we're going to set you a schedule and you're going to write for an hour a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
That does, you're shaking your head and you're right. That does not work. And I would cringe. There's a very popular ad on Facebook right now. And of course I'm in the book space, so it shows up all the time, but write your book in 30 days, write your best-selling book in 30 days and make $1 million off of it. And it just makes me cringe because those are not the type of people I want to work with. I want to work with people that are like you and me, right? That are soul-centered, heart-centered people that want to do this right, not fast. And yes, there are. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say those ads are giving such false hope to their potential clients. Pay me all this money and you'll have all this. Well, it's unrealistic. I'm not saying people can't write a book in 30 days. I did.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be a good book, whether it's going to sell, whether people are going to, I won't say whether people will read it. People will read it and then make their decision. But it's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
There is a lot of work that goes in behind publishing and selling. And when I first wrote my book, my idea was to write it for my family, for me and for my family. I had no intention of it being a bestseller. But I got, from writing that, I found my passion. So the next year it was two contributions. Then the next year it was 2 contributions. And then in 2021, I think it was 2 more, and that's when I went ghostwriting. And in 2022, 23, I did 8 compilation books, and I just love it.
Yeah. It's, I want to go back to that ad for a second because I want to know what the dropout rates for programs are like that. I want to know how many people walk away with a book they're proud of, a book that they put on their shelf, and a book that truly converts in their business because it embodies their voice and their spirit, right? Like when I was a ghostwriter, I would have people come to me and be like, okay, how long is this going to take you? 6 months to a year? What? Should take you 30 days. No. No. First of all, that's writing. No. I can't even interview you that fast to embody your voice. But people, the industry has gotten this rap that you should be able to do it in 30 days or less. And it's because of ads like that. Like, and you're absolutely right, Terri. You can write a book in 30 days or less. And I wrote my first book in 2 months, and it's a sci-fi, so it's quite beefy. And it can be done, but I gave up everything else. in the meantime. And those ads are targeted at busy entrepreneurs who do not have 3 to 4 hours a day to sit down and write. Were you retired when you started writing this book?
I wasn't retired. When I wrote my book, I had just finished my coaching training, life coaching training, and I had set up the business. But around about the same time that I'd set up the business, my mum went into care. So I became my mum's carer. And I was trying to do a little bit of business on the side. And I just went, no, this is my priority for now. And I was able to do that. I had the flexibility to do that. If I was in a full-blown business, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But that's when you hire a ghostwriter.
That's when you hire a ghostwriter. That's right. And what the people that are coming to you to write their books, what is their take on ghostwriting? Do they understand what it is, or how do you coach them through what the relationship's going to look like?
Before we even start work, we'll have a conversation about what my expectations are and what my standards are. So if I write in my contract, I'm going to interview you once a week for 12 weeks. I'm going to write, I'm going to give it back to you for feedback. I want that feedback returned to me within 7 days so that we can keep going. It's a collaboration. Yes, I'm doing the work, but they have to do their part. I can't do it on my own. So that's explained to them up front before we even start.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't had any issue with it to date. I've written a couple of manuscripts. I've done some content. People have asked me to do resumes. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I don't do copyright. Not my gig. Not interested in doing copywriting, so that's something I don't do. I've been asked by the RSL, Return Services League, like your veterans. Our local club have asked me to help them put a book together because where we live, we actually had quite a lot of activity during World War II. So that's a project that I'm doing, a voluntary project, because I'm giving back to community with that one. And I'm actually really enjoying it. And they're worried that they're putting me under too much pressure. It's like, oh, we don't want you to do. It's okay, it's all good. I'll sort the writing. You just do the research for me. But my first client, I put it out to the universe that I was going to do ghostwriting. My first client contacted me, someone I knew through networking, and she said, I want you to write my book. And I said, sure, let's go have a chat. And previous to her, I had been in a compilation book called Forever Changed by Suicide. And one of the writers in that had said to me, would I write in her compilation book? I said, sure, what is it? What's the genre? And she said, domestic violence. And I went, no, I've been blessed. I couldn't write with integrity. With that would only. And she said, oh, okay. Well, my very first client was a domestic violence survivor. But I was able to write it. I was able to step back and write it as a story and not immerse myself in the emotion. So there is that separation, like we were talking about before. How do you separate? For me, quite often it's separating myself from my client's story rather than me separating work as such. It's me separating from my client and going, I'm writing a story, their story. And that's how I get through. And it was quite emotional, nasty in places. But with her, I had to say, are there any legal outstandings? Are there any issues with your therapist? She was still having therapy. Are there any issues that we need to know about? Because I can write it, but we need to protect you as well. Being able to step outside, it took the emotion out of it for me, and it took the emotion out of it for her. So she wasn't getting triggered. I would ask questions, she would answer them. I'd put it together. So there's that side of the ghostwriting as well. I take the workload, but I was also taking the emotional strain off my client.
It's very factual feeling.
Yes.
These are just facts of my history that I need to tell you. There isn't that charge behind it. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. As someone who is working on her own memoir right now and spends most of her time crying through the chapters, maybe I need a ghostwriter. But at the same time, it is like you said, it's incredibly cathartic and healing to go through this process. So I'm going to ask you my final question.
Sure.
What advice do you have for authors that want to have a book written either through ghostwriter or write it themselves?
Really look at your why. Why do you want to share your story? It may be a chapter in a book, like we were together in a compilation book. It may be a chapter. And if that's the way to start, it's 3,000 or 4,000 words, and that might be enough. So look at a compilation book if you don't want to do, if a whole book is overwhelming, look at a compilation book. They're wonderful. They're a beautiful start. And it's not too overwhelming to write 4,000 words for yourself. But if it is an emotional story, get some help, whether through a book coach, whether through a ghostwriter. Your story is worthy. People will read it. It may not be a bestseller, but your story is shared. And I think that's one of the big things for me is the sharing of stories. Because if one person can read your story and go, wow, thank you. And that could be, thank you for letting me know I'm not alone. Thank you for sharing your story. I know someone who's going to benefit from this. So if one person gets a benefit from your story, your job is done.
That's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Terri, for coming on and telling us all about what it means to be a ghostwriter and what parts of us pour out to write that book, especially that first book. That first book there is nothing like it. So thank you so much.
And I have to say it is addictive.
Yes, there should be an asterisk above the first book of like, you will be addicted. There will be more.
This doesn't stop here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Terri.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of I Wrote That. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our show so you don't miss any of our upcoming guests. And if this has led you to some inspiration to want to get started on your own authorship journey, whether you just have an idea or you have a manuscript that you're ready to publish, reach out to us at nextpagepublishing.net and we will match you up with our team of experts to make the journey simple, easy, and smooth.